Hello, this is Kiprono, if you like call me Moses. So today I'm going to talk about being an international student in Canada. Listen, Canada is a nice place to be. Canada is actually one of the easiest, though things have changed now. It's becoming difficult to get a study permit, study visa to come to Canada. But if you have all the right documents and follow the procedure, you might have a chance. And it usually favors the younger guys, those guys who've just graduated straight from high school. Oh, yeah, those guys trying to do masters. But those from high school usually have a chance. The young people below 30 years, they have a chance. So let me say this, being a student in Canada or international student in Canada can be challenging, or it is challenging sometimes. Because one, if you come here and you're sponsoring yourself, which most people do, then it's not easy. You gotta have some money. But on the flip side, you are able to work. You are able to find a work permit. Not those days. I came in the year 2009. Those days we didn't get a work permit immediately. We waited for 6 months to get a work permit. But now people can find work permit and can go and do some job. If you come early, sometimes it's okay. You can get in here early. Let's say you get a visa early, you can come in early, so long as you're able to explain yourself at the airport, because some of the people at the airport, some of the immigration officers at the airport might turn you back and say, hey, why you come early, when where are you going to stay? So these are the things you need to know before you even come here. Do you have a place to go and stay, to come and stay here in Canada? That's very important. You gotta have a place, know where you're going to stay. For me, I had people to host me, and I was lucky. But this guy who was hosting me, I came with some money, so thank God, thank you, Dad, thank you, Mama. I appreciate that, and I had partial scholarship, right? And I was lucky. So the guy who was hosting me, I had a lot of money, I paid some rent. But then when I ran out of the money, he started writing a bill for me. So if I pay, he says, oh, this money you didn't pay. So he put the money for me, say for a couple of months, $400 or $200 every month to pay. So, and then once I graduated, I paid him. Yeah, I took some time actually before paying him. So you gotta have a place, host place. If you don't have a host place, at least you need some money to at least support you for some time. That's number one. Have a place to put your head, shelter. That's key. That way it will give you strength to keep looking for a job, and know, hey, I have a place to sleep, and don't stress out. Right? That's number one. The reason I'm talking about housing is because it's not easy to get housing straight from Africa, or let's say from Europe, of whichever country, so long as you're not in country. It's not easy because the landlords will need what? Will need references, because this is their business. They'll say, hey, you know what? Give me a couple of references, and we want to know what job do you do. I mean, it's like they're doing the little check to see if you are able to sustain paying the monthly payment, the rent monthly, or based on the arrangements, right? So you gotta be able. So the landlords will never take that risk. This is business. I told you they're also paying mortgage on that property, so it is a risk. So before you move from your home country, please at least have a connection. At least know somebody. If you don't know somebody, then you might have to stay at the hostels in school. That's key. Period. Let's close that. Have a place to put your head, because at least, even if you're going to go, because it's a rough ride, it's a rough journey. I'm not gonna lie to you, unless you have the money. So if you're self-sponsored, it's a rough ride. So at least have a place where you can go at night and sleep, cover your head, and at least continue dreaming. You can wake up, even if you're stressed, at least you can get some rest, which is very important for any human being. Okay, have a place and have connections. At least know some people, connect with some people, try. If you can, then you will make some. Now let's say you're in Canada, you got a housing and you're in Canada. You just landed in Canada. You have a house, you have a place to sleep and all that. Now the battle begins. Culture shock. And this will happen as you go out there, as I said before. Nowadays you get a work permit, study permit and work permit together. They come as one thing, right? You're allowed to work as many hours as you want. Now, this is where the culture shock comes in. How culture shock? We're talking about different culture. How the way of doing things has changed. You're a new guy. You totally a new person here, right? So you have to adapt. Sometimes it's not easy to just bring the you in, say, my home country, Kenya, to just install you right here. There is a lot of struggle. We might not even see, but mentally, emotionally, there is that struggle because now you come here, you get a job, nighttime shift, you're excited, you want to do it, but at the same time you meet people, but they treat you differently. There's a way of doing things. It's not your normal way. So that culture shocks might throw you off a little bit. So you need to understand this. It's not permanent. So with time, you will overgrow it. With time, you will get to learn, right? So I remember I used to work at Wendy's, my first job. So I went to Wendy's restaurant and I got there. The culture there, the fast food restaurant is so fast. Bam, bam, bam. Things go really quick. So one day, this lady from Philippines is like, Moses, you know what, Moses? Go get me chicken. So chicken, get me 2 chicken. So I went to the freezer or the cooler and I got how many? I opened the box and brought 2 chicken wings. When I got here, I put them on a plate. He's like, Moses, I didn't say 2 chicken pieces of chicken. I say 2 chicken, meaning 2 boxes of chicken wings. I'm like, okay, but I didn't know that. So such things, you see what I'm saying? So you gotta, any job you go, there's a lingo, and that shocks you. There's culture shocks everywhere. Culture shock everywhere. So you need to understand that. You gotta be willing to adapt and catch up and accept. Because sometimes if you don't accept life here, it's gonna be frustrating. I've been here over 10 years, but some things I'm still frustrated. But I'm used to it though. That's the thing, getting used to the new life and accepting some things, right? So, I went to the store and I paid some money. I had $20. I said, I'm going to buy this and it's going to be dead even $20. No, I got to the cashier. The cashier's like, I asked, why do I need extra money? He's like, well, you pay tax on it. So, right? It's not like Kenya, like you don't see your tax added. The tax is already added. But this one you see is that you're paying tax for this and the tax for this. So culture, that's the thing. You need to understand that. Be willing to adapt. Be willing to get into the groove and accept some things, right? You don't want to be a liability to others, to those friends. Because most people don't form those relationships because they don't want you to be a liability to them. You understand? So be willing to get into the groove and be willing to step up. If you're a lady, step up. If you're a man, step up and be independent. So it's not for people who are the weak-minded or willing to give up or pity-party people. No, it's going to be a whole struggle. You need to understand that. Culture shock and getting into the groove. Catching up. So because that way you go to the job. You see, when you get here, people will show you help. Some people will help you find a job, create that CV, resume. We call it resume. Make it. Sometimes we don't even have references, or use a lot of references you have. Some guys, say, yeah, help me. Culture shock entails, guess what? The weather. The weather here, wintertime, it's brutal. You might be cold. And you might not even know or be prepared. For me, one day I wasn't prepared. I didn't even worry about checking the weather while leaving the house. But boy, one day, I jumped on my bike, went to school, didn't check the weather, just put on a light sweater. Coming back, cold as hell. I tried to ride my bike. I had to jump off my bike. And guess what? I got to the house with my friend. We were looking at each other, and my hands were freezing. So I came straight, ran to the to the water tap and tried to warm my hands with hot water. Big mistake. Cold. So it's a learning process. So you need to be prepared. At least ask questions. That way you won't be falling into such situations or such things. Right? So understand people here are different. The people are different in terms of how they act, how they behave, how they talk to you, and so you gotta learn how to adapt. And sometimes the language barrier. Sometimes you trying to talk and people don't understand. Say what? Say what? So you have to switch from water, to better for people to understand you. Even in school, in class, you have to adjust because it's somebody says, I don't care. I won't change the way I talk. No, you have to because it's for your own benefit. And for people to communicate, there has to be proper communication, right? You have to understand each other for proper communication. So culture shock and so many things. That is closed. Culture shock is closed. Right. Okay, now let's talk about relationship, being independent, being principles, knowing what brought you here, knowing what to do. Listen, this country is different. Building relationship is actually hard. It's not easy to build a relationship, as I said before. Reason being, you wake up, go to work, go to school, and guess what? Take a dump, eat. That's how the cycle is. It's programmed, somewhat programmed. Unless you break that program yourself. So there is a lot. Building relationship is not easy too. Even those people you call friends are not friends, because once you become a liability to them, they kick you off. Once you're not paying your bills, or let's say roommates, and you're not doing your part, they will ditch you. Relationships here are not solid. I don't see relationship here as solid. It's just by the way, or actually knowing each other, but it's nothing solid, nothing permanent. So you need to understand that. Don't rely on anybody that much. Rely on your own thinking and your own. But some people are kind, some people are nice. Because for me, for example, when I went to state, I had people who hosted me. Sometimes they are nice people, I'm not saying, but it's hard to build those relationships because everybody is busy trying to pay these bills and live life. So don't over rely on other people. You need to use your own thinking. Don't copy other people. Be principled. Know what you want. Now, this is the case with most of the students, especially students from Kenya. They are falling behind because when they get here, they realize most students from Kenya, they are not being supported by their parents. And guess what? They fall through the cracks because they are not sure. They were not, like, they needed guidance when they came here. Now when they get here, they're on their own. Now it's a struggle. What do you do? What do I do? They come here, they're not even able to go to school. They're out of status. So they stay 2-3 years, the visa is gone. But they just working, they're making money, but they forget to go back to school. And that's how you keep your status, by being in school. And take a 1-year program, HCA program, LP, easy programs that could get you permanent residence or work permit for 3 years, and then change it. Transition from work permit, study permit to work permit, and then to permanent residence. It's possible, but these people end up going out there and testing things because they had bad company, don't have their own principles, and guess what? Some end up in the streets, some become homeless, some end up drinking, doing drugs, and forgetting who they are. And that's where you fall through the cracks. The next thing, we're trying to, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. To be homeless here, it's easy to fall through the cracks here. So you need to be principled. You need to know yourself. Or know what you want for yourself. Because nobody can babysit anybody. It's not a pity party here. It's a struggle. It's a work hard, pay your bills. Because immediately you get into drugs, fall off work, you can't pay bills. Now you're in the streets. What do? Now things go down south. So that's another thing. Be principled, know what you're doing here. Because I know it's hard to pay school fees, work and pay school fees, but people are doing it. Some are doing it. So why not you? You gotta step up, man up, or be strong and do it, right? That's how it's supposed to be. Right. I forget, in a country like Canada where drugs are legal and anything goes, and it's for you to take it or leave it. And if you really don't know who you are, if you can't even examine yourself, then you fall through these cracks. And guess what? Once you are not able to catch up with all these things, now the mental health, mental part, depression comes in, kicks in, and now you lose yourself. So probably you lose these drugs or to numb, drink it to numb your feelings and your struggles. And in the end, you end up in the streets, which is the most painful and the saddest part.